All right, so this time again, we have our regular starting function, f of x equals x squared. And this time, you notice how we have the c. It's divided by x. When c is greater than 1, we have what's called a horizontal stretch. So it's stretching out horizontally. When it's in between 1 and 0, we have what's called a horizontal shrink, because it's shrinking horizontally. When it's negative, it is reflected over the y-axis. We can't really tell, so let's change this value to 3, and we can see it better how the graph is reflected over the y-axis. So as c is changing, it's reflected over the x-axis. So as it's negative, it's reflected over the x-axis. Try to get it there. Perfect. So when c is negative, it's reflected over the x-axis. Again, notice how c is with x. So we had a horizontal stretch and a horizontal shift, or excuse me, horizontal stretch and a horizontal shrink. So whenever the c is with x, it's a horizontal stretch or a horizontal shrink. When it's greater than 1, it's a horizontal stretch. When it's a fraction or less than 1, it's a horizontal shrink. All right, so this graph right here, if we actually wrote that equation, 0.4, we know 0.4 is really 2/5. So we could rewrite this as f of x equals, equals, let's see, it'd be 2/5. So we'd have x divided by 2/5. And then squared. So that would be our graph. We could also write that as f of x equals, and we could write that as 5x divided by 2 squared. So it looks like that. So let's use it better. Let's have, this would be let's do, this would be 3/10. So 3 over 10, so it'd be 3 over 10. Let's see if I can, there you go. 3 over 10, or we could write that as 10x over 3. So same kind of idea. And then the same idea goes for if we have the absolute values. So here's again, the starting function for absolute value. And we can see as the c gets bigger, or greater than 1, it's a vertical, or excuse me, a horizontal stretch. And when it's less than 1, it's a horizontal shrink. Horizontal stretch, horizontal shrink. And again, when it's negative, it's a reflection over the y-axis. So when it's negative, it's a reflection over the y-axis. You can see it best with the square root here. It's a reflection over the y-axis. So here's where c is -1. Again, when it's a fraction, it's a horizontal shrink. And when it's bigger than 1, it's a horizontal stretch. And again, when it's negative, it's a reflection over the y-axis. So this is horizontal stretch and horizontal shrink. It's when the c value is changing.